Hey everyone, my name is Alt, and welcome back to Gameplay Disclosure, the series where I explain why certain levels don't have good gameplay and how to fix certain issues present within them. Last time, we covered the harder 6-star called Goodbye to the World, which ended up being pretty interesting in comparison to the previous ones. Today, however, we're covering a harder 6-star from 2.0 that isn't really a 6-star, called Secret Cave, which was made by Saao. Considering it's 2.0, you'd better expect me to talk about moving objects. With that said, let's get into the 4th episode of Gameplay Disclosure. The first section isn't horrible per se, but there are some things that could definitely be improved. First off, this saw, along with this other saw, are kind of awkward to avoid. However, this does get more consistent the more you do it, so I wouldn't really call it that big of a deal. Aside from this, there is the chance that the wave to cube transition can bug out if you go into the very top of this cube portal, which ends up killing you. This doesn't happen too often, but both of these things are still a problem in themselves and can be avoided. Oh boy, this section's something else. To begin, there's a key hidden in these platforms that you can go through. However, it's kind of hard to see it because of how the color of the key mixes with the block design. However, I don't really think that's that big of an issue. To exit this platform, you need to go through this gap. However, what you can't see is that there's some invisible slopes that push you upwards, which is pretty annoying to deal with at first. A bit later on, two platforms move towards the middle out of nowhere, which can really catch the player off guard. These can be annoying at times, even when you know that they're gonna move. Then, this part begins. This wave part has some slopes that move upwards and downwards without indications, along with the saws around it. This creates a very hard and awkward gap that is incredibly annoying to get past. This is far more difficult than anything else in this level, which makes it very tedious, along with it already having bad moving objects. If those things were tweaked even the slightest bit, this part would have already been so much better. While this section is much better than the last one, there's a few moving objects that I need to burn. The first one is this line of pillars that randomly move up and down in the cube section. It's not a big issue or anything, because it's still pretty readable, but that could be improved a little bit. The other issue involving moving objects is this pillar and this line of other pillars in the bowl section. They randomly move downward and is a little harder to read than the other moving object. But aside from those, this section doesn't have anything else bad about it. This section isn't really that bad compared to the previous ones, but it is kind of weird. This ship part has a big platform that moves either up or down at a pretty late spot, which makes it kind of hard to read. Aside from that, this pattern is repeated way too many times, making it pretty repetitive. It doesn't last throughout the entire section, but it certainly does last for most of it. Spicing up the diversity of gameplay here and making the platforms move up and down faster would drastically improve this section. Ah yes, a throwback to section 2. Why do I say that, you might ask? Well, it repeats the same wave function as it, but at a higher speed, even the unbalanced / awkward gap made from the moving slopes. After you get past that, you get to a decently awkward mini wave part. Especially entering the mini wave feels slightly awkward. It's not a huge deal, but it's important enough to include here. There's also some yellow jump pads here that are pretty hard to see for the average player, especially the second yellow jump pad that is invisible. This can throw the player off very easily. Fixing the normal wave part already fixes the biggest annoyance of the level here, to be honest. The other issues are also important, but they're not as annoying to deal with. The final section is pretty odd, to say the least. Everything is perfectly fine until you reach 84%, where you do nothing for approximately 11 seconds before you reach the end of the level. This is probably the dumbest way to end off a level, but hey, if other levels do it, it must be okay for this level to do it as well, right? Changing this to actually have gameplay would entirely fix this section, no doubt. It would have also possibly been a good way to end off an early 2.0 level. After reviewing the entirety of this level, I have come to 4 different conclusions. First off, there are a lot of annoying moving objects that could have been used more effectively. I know this level is from early 2.0, but that doesn't mean that this should be avoided. There's some awkward gameplay thrown here and there that could have been playtested a bit more to make it flow better. The ending is extremely underwhelming and boring. Some variation in gameplay there would have been better than an 11-second long auto section. Lastly, the 4th section includes the same pattern repeated over and over and over again. You should try to have some variation there, similar to what I said in my 3rd conclusion. I hope you enjoyed this gameplay disclosure. I know it's been more than 2 weeks since the last one, but I've recently been going through some life struggles that have been preventing me from doing this for a while. I guess I'm just gonna have to hope that this was enough to satisfy your needs. Again, do not harass or send hate to Saao for this specific level or any level made by him. There isn't a point to hating someone because of their old levels, nor their newer ones. People can make mistakes and we need to accept that. With that said, this has been Ultrativity signing out. I hope you all have a great day.